Hello everyone, my name is Leon. I am a strange alcoholic. I'm real grateful to be here, real grateful to be sober. Somebody give me a 10-minute warning. Look, I got a little older and I will ramble. But I want to thank Mimi for having me out. I don't get out like I used to. I don't speak like I used to. And that's something I had gotten into in my recovery. I'm one of those folks that was supposed to have been a circuit speaker. I spoke at conventions in 30 different states. Been over to the UK 3 times. Been over to Canada 5 times. For some reason, somebody felt I had a story to tell. And though I don't like crowds and I don't like speaking, and I don't even go to movies because there's too many people. And I don't like meeting new people and shit like that. But people did that for me when I came around. They welcomed me. And there were people carrying the message that I heard that gave me some hope that I too could stay sober. So I started doing a lot of things in the fellowship that I wasn't comfortable with. But I wanted to stay sober more than I wanted to be comfortable. So I learned how to do those things. My sobriety date is June 23rd, 1986. I got 32 years of sobriety. And Cocaine Anonymous plays a very, very important part of my life because it was the fellowship of Cocaine Anonymous that I felt most at home at. And unlike AA, I found a home in service work in Cocaine Anonymous. Because where I I love AA. I'm an alcoholic. I'm a real alcoholic. My claim to fame is drinking a fifth of Hennessy in an hour by myself. And on the way to the liquor store to get another bottle, another fifth before it closed, I got pulled over by the police and passed the field sobriety test. So I can drink, okay? I can motherfucking drink. And the other thing that I found in some speaking things, is look, I used to get the notes, watch your profanity and this, that, and the other thing. And don't say this and don't say that. And not only in LA, in AA, but sometimes in CA. But you know what? From where I come from, that's a language I understand. So when I came to CA and I heard people talking this way in the meetings that allowed it, I was able to hear some stuff. So in a general way, what I used to be like, what happened, and what I'm like today. I come from a Leave It to Beaver type family. My mother and father were college educated. Both of them were going to be teachers. My father was a teacher in elementary school in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. It was the 50s. And they made a decision as a couple that if we're going to have a family, then the mama's going to stay home and raise the kids. And when they're able to be out and about, then you can go become a teacher if that's what you want. So I grew up in a 2-parent home with a lot of structure. With sitting down having family dinners and shit like that. With a father that used to sit down and talk to us and shit. A lot of structure. And I got one older sister and 2 younger brothers. My parents did not drink, did not use. My siblings did not drink and do not use today. I'm the only one in the bunch. And I started off real young. Because I found what they talk about in the book. When I started using drugs and alcohol, I found a sense of ease and comfort. Because some way and somehow I never felt comfortable in my own skin. I always felt not good enough. Not like my sister. Not, I was a sickly child. I was scared of girls, but I loved them all. The rejection hurt. Like when you write those love notes. First grade love note. Will you be my girlfriend? Mark the box yes, and mark the box no. And you pass it. You mail it. And you pass it, and it gets to her, and she takes that big old number 2 pencil and 3 pencil, and she marks, and you see her check, and you didn't put no line saying remarks, but she keep on going, and she put remarks, no, because you too black, and all of that affected me for a long time, but somewhere around junior high school, I found some sense of ease and comfort with a drink. And we started taking a little bottle of wine to school, pouring it in the fruit punch carton that we kept in our locker. And then came the weed, smoking weed. And I remember smoking that shit the first time, me and my partner passing it around, because you could get 3 joints to 4 joints for $1 back then. Okay? And this is in the day of the 4-finger lid, the baggie, for $10. So, 3 joints for $1, man, the dollar was hard to come by. You know what I'm saying? I mean, because like, when I went in the Navy when I was 18, shit, gas was still 25 cents a gallon. I was one of the highest paid workers at my little hamburger stand at $1.91 an hour. So, the prices of shit was down, except for cocaine. That shit was still $100 a gram. And so what I'm saying is I tried everything. I was doing the Dexedrine, which was a high-powered speed at that time, a weight reduction pill. It was so powerful they took it off the market. You take that shit, your eyes be on high beam, and you talking 100 miles an hour. You had no fear. I had girlfriends. I'm smoking a little weed, taking the Dex, and then in late high school, somebody said, "You want to snort some of this?" And I said, "Yeah. I don't turn shit down." I snorted a little cocaine, and nose was running, a little numb and shit. It wasn't my thing, and plus it cost too much. I'm gonna give up $25 to go in for with 4 of us just to snort this shit up, and it's all gone? No, I ain't wasting my money like that. But every now and then I would do it because the girls liked it. It made you look like the big man. So anyway, by the time I came out of high school, I started running afoul of the law. My first arrest, I got pulled over because I was doing a little dealing. And this was 1971. And I got pulled over. And back then, a joint would get you 7 years in prison. Wow. A joint. And they counted a roach as a joint. And we weren't throwing joints away. We had the little clips and all of that. We'll save the joints to roll up another joint. And anyway, I get pulled over. It was a baggie with 100 joints already rolled up. 100 hits of acid, and 4 kilos in the trunk. There are people that are still in fucking jail for what I have. And by God's grace, because that shit don't happen. If you watch Law and Order, that shit don't happen. I got a DA reject. I spent 4 days in jail. County jail. That was an experience I never want to experience again. And I saw it coming because I was getting picked up for traffic warrants. I was a low rider and all of that sort of shit. And in the 70s, you know, you couldn't ride more than 2 male blacks in a car and all of this sort of shit. And I decided to join the Navy. And by the time I got in the Navy, I was in boot camp. And I took 90 Dexedrines with me. And by the 3rd day, I was smoking weed in boot camp. And by the 4th day, we were buying booze. So I got high all the way through boot camp. And in the Navy, we started messing with that high price stuff. And quality marijuana from overseas and stuff like that. I was stationed in Washington, D.C., right side outside of Washington, D.C. I got high my whole time. And getting busted and arrested and all of that didn't mean a thing. It's something I did every single day. I get out of the Navy, I'm doing the same thing. I get a job with Southern California Edison. This is in 1977. And I get a job now that's paying $950 to start. That's a lot of money back then. I give me a nice apartment, the leather sofa, the fish tanks and all the works, you know. I'm buying my weed by the kilos and shit, you know. I'm hanging out at the Carolina West, you know. I got all the gear, you know. I got the little Coke spoon and all of that because the girls like it and shit. And I happened to buy some Coke from one of the girls that was waitressing at Carolina West. And I was sitting at the bar, who I didn't know supplied the Coke to the girls that sold at the Carolina West. And she said, "Leon, I didn't know you do Coke." And I said, "Yeah, I do it every now and then." And she asked me a real stupid question. She asked me if I ever played baseball. And I say, "Shit, you know, I used to play first base when I was on the Little League team." And she said, "No, that ain't what I'm talking about." And she said, "Take me home and I'm going to show you how to play." And I took her home. Now over there, look, I was kind of a ladies' man even then. But she was a little older than I liked them. She wore a nice wig, but I didn't like wigs back then. She was a little heavier than I liked them. But, you know, what the hell. I took her home. She had this doctor's bag. And she pulled out this wrap. And it was, back then, this before straight shooters, it was a piece of art. Nice big old thing, you know, with a stem and shit. She went over to the stove, threw in a gram, cooked up a rock where it really clinked, where you really needed a razor blade to cut this shit. She cut it in 4 pieces. She put a quarter on the pipe. And she started giving me some instructions, which I followed to the T. Wait until this big old thing turned white. Take another deep breath, blow out. And then put your finger over the hole, don't suck it all up and pull your... And when I got up off the floor, I asked her to be my sponsor. That started that run. That took me to places, had me doing things that I never thought I would do. This young man shared, I did whatever it took. I am so glad that I got high where I got high. Because if I had been in West Hollywood, I would probably have to add some stuff to my story. Okay? But I did it hard and I did it long. 1986. I was in a gang of debt. I had been suspended from my job 3 times for absenteeism and punctuality problems. Nobody gets that many times suspended. Usually they fire you after the second. I'm making a gang of money. Ain't got no money. Old money. Living in a 1-bedroom apartment. Car. I got to sell. I owe IRS $24,000 because I'm claiming dependents I don't have, like 100 of them, you know. So I owe IRS. They on my ass. I'm riding a motorcycle. I don't have enough gas, the money to put gas in it because I'm too busy getting high. And I got this suspension, and they read this letter. I got this letter when I returned from suspension. And it said, if you late to work one more time, or if you call in sick one more time, in the next 12 months you'll be terminated. And I knew I was fired. And I knew I could never get another job making over $60,000 a year with just a high school education. And I was up on the boiler, because I worked at a power plant, smoking my joint with my co-workers. And what he said, you need to go to rehab. And I said, rehab? And he hit the joint and handed it back. He said, yeah. He said, yeah, I've been to one. And I said, what the fuck I need to go to rehab? And he said, if you go, then the union can hold your job for a year no matter what, because you're seeking help. So I went back downstairs. I called up Employees Assistance Program, and I said, I want to go in the program. I have a drug and alcohol problem. They said, well, come on in. We can put you in a place today. It's Friday, payday. I got plans to go to the Cool Jazz Festival in San Diego. You know, I got a ½ ounce of cocaine and a fucking case of Hennessy. I'm like, can I come in on Monday? And that was my last high. I went to the Cool Jazz Festival. I partied my ass off. I got high. I went through that ½ ounce of cocaine with some friends and shit. And I did not feel like I was high. Wow. We were at the thing, the Cool Jazz Festival. You know how you sitting there and you talking to your friends and you turn around, your drink gone? I'm sorry, I got it. That's how bad it was. When I got home the next on Monday, like I said, I didn't have enough money to put in the motorcycle to get to it. A friend took me out to this rehab in Yorba Linda, California. St. Jude's Hospital. It was a 2 weeks and a couple 2-day follow-up program. I was the blackest thing out there besides people's shoes and the Cadillacs and the Jaguars parked outside. And the first thing they did that day was take us to a meeting. And I heard people talk about recovery. And that you don't have to take another one after this day. And again, I'm out there, you know, where they don't cuss. And they follow the Pacific group idea or speakers, you know. They all have to have a suit and tie on or a sport coat and tie, and all the women have to wear dresses or a skirt and shit, and no profanity. And I listened. I said, okay. And they took us to another meeting at a little Lano club and shit, and I heard and saw some folks that were a little looser. I said, yeah, okay. And the third day I woke up, and for some reason today I know it's my higher power said, look, you got 3 days, and you haven't been clean and sober without nothing for 3 days since you was in junior high school. And I had this little guy that was a sketch artist. He used to draw pictures, and he had pictures of me holding up the big book and shit because I was reading the big book. And I could see some shit in there, but I didn't really understand the shit. But and that's that Friday, because it was Wednesday when I realized I had 3 days, my girlfriend came for the visit. And I could hear stilettos coming down the hall. And I could hear the Bartland James wine coolers clicking in her big purse. And when she stepped in the room, I could smell the buzz that she had. And she said, "Is there a place where we can go get high?" And I said, "You know what? I'm going to try this thing." Because I saw folks getting a chip. And I said, "I'm at least give me a 30-day goddamn chip." So what I did is started following the suggestions I heard. They said make 90 meetings in 90 days. I made 3 times that. Because I had a motorcycle, a meeting directory, and I didn't care. Whatever time I was off from work, I was at a meeting. And if I was off, I found as many meetings a day as I could. I went to CA, I went to AA, and I went to NA. It didn't make a difference. I just needed to be in the meeting. And then, I'm still going to Orange County. Because I didn't believe y'all did this thing. And one day I was running a little late. And somebody, a guy in Placenta told me I needed to go to 9604. I'm like, I didn't even buy pussy on Figueroa. I ain't going over there. And I ended up over there. And I found us. And then I started finding 3801. And back then we didn't have all the meetings that we have.
That's right.
And I met the Happy Howards who would start a meeting, make you the secretary, and never show up again. You know? And they started opening meetings, and we took CA into some of the recovery homes. And so I had all these damn commitments and shit like that. And I took them, whatever it was, picking up butts and what. 6 months sober, clean and sober. I had a motorcycle accident. Almost lost my leg. And they brought me meetings in the hospital. The friends that I had made. And coming out of the hospital, then that's when we went to a marathon at Crenshaw. We heard some people speak that came out of a big book workshop called Big Book by the Sea. It was the second workshop. It was the first workshop started by Joe Hawk. And he did it in Santa Monica. We got a couple facilitators, Ralph White, Ronald White, and me. We got those facilitators to come out to 69th and Normandy. And we started the big book tour, the too early big book, never too early big book study. And that's how I started going through the book. Even though at 90 days of sobriety, I had a sponsor, old one, that just kind of gave you the doo-doos and shit like that. And he gave me an inventory sheet to fill out. And I think, and I'm glad I did that shit. I filled it out on day 90, and I gave up my first 5th step on day 91. And I gave up what I thought were my resentments, and he talked to me through them. But I think my real freedom came from this part that said, tell your deepest, darkest secrets that you would not tell anybody. And I wrote those shit down. And when I read it to him, I was like, oh shit. And he looked me in the eye and he said, me too. So I felt a sense of freedom. Let me tell you how the name Strange came about. Used to go to meetings at AA, come out of the recovery thing, back in the day when they were sending everybody, call the 800 number and they'd send you. So we came out and we came into AA saying, I'm an alcoholic and addict. And the AA didn't want to hear that shit. And they were telling you that shit. And I would say it anyway. And the old timers would meet and there'll be a debate about that shit. And I ain't give a fuck. I'm an alcoholic and addict. It says right here, the only requirement for membership and da-da-da. And one day, but they wouldn't you would walk out when you got mad. A lot of people walk out. But the old timers would always chase you and catch you in the parking lot wanting to talk. And one of them set me down. He took me to 12 and 12.
That's right.
And he took me to the third tradition. And they talked about an alcoholic who was an addict who came into Alcoholics Anonymous back in those days. And they said what to do with this strange alcoholic.
That's right.
Should we put him out or should we keep him? And one of the old timers said the only thought that came to mind is what will God do? And they let him stay. And they read further and it said he never bothered them about his other addictions. And what they tried to explain, and this guy explained to me, if a wino is sitting up there who just wants to get off of wine, and he heard he can get help in Alcoholics Anonymous, and he comes and sit down there, and all he hears is an addict up here talking about his addiction to cocaine and how much money he spent on it and all of that, that wino might walk out and die. So the old timers in AA said, yeah, you'll be good over in CA. Do that shit. And that's what I did. I got a lot of commitments in CA. I did the GSR thing, the DSR thing. I became a delegate. I did that shit for a couple of years, 8 years. I became a trustee. I sat on I know how the World Services work because I started off in the beginnings. I have a hand in some of the writings and the pamphlets you read because I was on the literature committee where that shit was written. I know who wrote some of it, like Who's an Addict. They didn't have that pamphlet when I got sober. I was on the committee that put that together. The one about Get a Sponsor. So I've watched the growth from the inside. And I know what it's all about. I did the speaker thing. Now let me tell you about life sober. It don't always turn out to be a story. Look, I was a hoe in CA. Okay? You said yes, I'm ready.
That's right.
What's that song the guy had about somebody in the closet? I wasn't the one in the closet, but one of the girls was. Because somebody came in, the only person that had a key to my spot came in right while we was doing it, and I stopped her at the door and had the confrontation and all of that. And when she leaves, I go back in the room, and I'm like, she didn't go out the window, the bars are still there. Where? She was deep in the motherfucking closet. I had been the speaker at a meeting, looking at the table in front of me with 6 women sitting there. And it wasn't the fact that I had slept with all 6. I was sleeping with all 6 currently without them knowing this shit. And each year that I did an inventory, I learned more and more about me. And I want to say I made amends to all of those women. And I come to realize some shit about myself that I needed to say in every relationship I was in. I got married on this fellowship. Something I said I would never do. I've always said I never wanted any children of my own. And at 40-something years old, I father a child. I didn't want the child. But that's not my choice. I supported the mother having that child. I took care of her financially during the pregnancy, after the pregnancy, moved her into another place, got her transportation. I did what I was supposed to do as a father trying to raise this child. Because I didn't necessarily like the way she raised hers. Okay? But I went on and got married because I knew my mother would really never accept that child as her grandchild unless we were. It's just the way my mother was. Got pregnant on the honeymoon. Be careful on honeymoons. So I got two. I got a 20-year-old and a 15-year-old. Let me just say, me and the mother are not on good terms, and because of that, I'm not on good terms with my daughters. But I do what I'm supposed to do. I've been blessed to have that good job. I retired at 47. My job, Social Security, provide an ample amount for child support for each one of those children. What she does with the money ain't really none of my business. Okay? How and what she does with those children that has separated me and them she's always separated from my family, is on her, not me. Because my God knows what I would do and how I would do it. I've been through a lot on this program. Shit that people would drink about. This shit went down. And ain't because of my smoking, because that's the only fucking addiction I ain't let go of. It's because of untreated sleep apnea. If any of y'all got this shit, get on that motherfucking machine every night. Because, see, I was a hoe back then. I ain't wearing that mask to bed, you know. I'm not taking the machine over her house and shit. And finally one day I couldn't breathe no more. And was 2 days away from being put on life support. But for some reason, my God wants me around to be an example and to share that no matter what, no matter fucking what, you ain't got to drink and use about it. What my life like today? Up and down, good and bad. Whatever I've been doing for the last 3 days, I'm on fucking puppy duty.
You on what?
Puppy duty. Please, you're going to have to erase this tape with all the cussing I do. I got a Yorkie. I grew up, dogs are supposed to be on the outside. If you're going to have an inside dog, they damn sure don't sleep in the same bed you do. That little bitch slept in the bed. My spouse took in another one. He was male. Ours is female. Old. She got pregnant. First pregnancy and birth didn't go well. She lost both puppies. I'm saying, let's get his balls cut off. We didn't get it done in time. And we ended up with 3 puppies. 2've made it. Fat and happy and thriving. And she don't like to be alone, so when the spouse leave, I got to come up front and keep her company. If I don't, she come get me. You know. Let's go back to this spouse thing. Remember what I said about the multiple girls? My inventory, my truth is I'm not a monogamous person. I can't promise that. Because I'm not. It ain't about the sex for me. A lot of times I just have intimate female partners. They good friends. Maybe we have some benefits. Maybe we don't. If you're going to be with me, you need to know that. Because I ain't going to promise you something I can't do no more. I don't make those things. I try to keep my word. In my sobriety, I'm what you call, I'm polyamorous. It means I have more than one intimate, loving partners. And at one time I had 3 of them living with me. They all know about each other. They're all accepting of it. And no, don't think it's all about threesomes and gang things, because I don't do that shit. No, that's not me. That's not why I do it. You know what I'm saying? One of my partners of 15 years passed away. And it was my other female partner who came in and fixed her hair and dressed her for the funeral. That puppy, that one that just had the puppies, was named after that partner, because that's what she wanted for Christmas. And I couldn't get her a puppy. I went out and got her a big bowl of goldfish that year. And we were moving into a home where she had fixed my computer desk and all of that. But we didn't have a stove at the house yet, so we were going back to the house where the other girls were to have dinner. And when I came to the house with the goldfish, and I walked in, she had passed away on Christmas Eve. It's what? I didn't drink and use. And we were able to lay her to rest. In the following year, we were able to get a Yorkie. My other partner said, let's get the Yorkie. And they named her after the partner who passed, nickname that we had for her. So we have her spirit in this dog. Sobriety is what it is. It's life on life's terms without drinking and using. And life will bring you what it wants to fucking bring you. Not necessarily what you want, but it will always bring you what you need if you stay clean and sober and trust in God. And sometimes you're going to have to say, why, God, why? And sometimes those answers won't come easy. Sometimes those answers is in how you live and what you do. Because the eyes are watching. Not only in this fellowship, but in your neighborhoods, by your relatives. And it comes back. The father that I never really had a relationship with asked me for the big book one year. He asked me for a CD of hearing me speak. And today I have open and honest relationships with my father. And he knows about my different lifestyle. And he's accepting of that. You know, so stay sober. Please stay sober. Because when I say the prayer at the end of the meeting, I'm praying for the addict who still suffers. And that ain't necessarily just the addict that's drinking and using.
That's right. Come on now.
Because you really can be in here clean and sober and suffering. But suffering is an option. Okay? Because we got 12 steps that if you apply them in your life, it'll relieve you of the suffering. And it's all about that fucking work. However you get it, whether it's in a workshop a book study, one-on-one. You get into the 12 steps of Cocaine Anonymous, because they do work. Thank you for allowing me to share.